The emergency session bell echoed through the crystalline chambers of the Galactic Council, its haunting resonance causing the assembled delegates to shift nervously in their respective atmospheric bubbles. High Chancellor Zixathera's four eyes blinked in rapid succession, a clear sign of distress among her species, as she activated the holographic display at the center of the chamber. "Distinguished members of the Council," she began, her translator converting her chittering language into the universal tongue, "we face an unprecedented crisis. The quarantine zone designated as Sector 7 Alpha has been compromised." A collective gasp rippled through the assembly. The Vorthak ambassador's tentacles writhed anxiously, while the crystalline Etherean's forms dimmed to a worried amber hue. Even the usually stoic draconian representative straightened in his powered exoskeleton. Ambassador Kethvar of the hegemony leaned forward, his scales clicking against his ceremonial armor. "High Chancellor, surely you don't mean—" "I do," Zixathara interrupted, her voice barely above a whisper. "The humans have emerged." The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates began speaking in their native tongues, their translators struggling to keep pace with the overlapping conversations. Some species had legends about the quarantine sector, whispered stories passed down through generations of spacefaring civilizations. Councillor Vexinari, eldest of the Mentarch collective, raised her psychic dampening field to command attention. Her ancient voice carried the weight of millennia as she spoke. 2,000 cycles ago, we made the decision to isolate them. The surveys showed a species so violently unpredictable, so dangerously adaptive, that containment was our only option. The holographic display shifted, showing grainy surveillance footage from the early human space age. Primitive rockets, nuclear, weapons, endless conflicts over resources and ideologies. The assembled delegates had seen these records before, used them to justify the massive energy barriers that had surrounded humanity's solar system for 2 millennia. They were barely capable of reaching their own satellite, continued Vexnari, yet their warfare capabilities and aggressive expansion patterns suggested they would become a galactic threat within mere centuries. The Council voted unanimously for containment. High Chancellor Zixthera manipulated the hologram, showing recent sensor data. 3 standard days ago, our monitoring stations detected massive energy fluctuations from within the quarantine zone. Then, silence. When our scout ships arrived, they found the barrier generators completely destroyed, not damaged, completely obliterated down to the molecular level. The silence that followed was deafening. "How many ships?" asked Ambassador Kethvar, though his tone suggested he feared the answer. That's the problem," Zixthara replied. "We don't see any ships. We see structures." The hologram changed again, revealing images that defied comprehension. Massive ring-like constructs surrounded what had once been Jupiter, their surfaces gleaming with unknown technologies. Where Mars had been, a planet-sized space station pulsed with energy signatures that made the Council's most advanced sensors strain to interpret. "By the void," whispered the Etherean delegate, her crystalline form flickering rapidly. "What have they become?" Before anyone could answer, every screen in the chamber activated simultaneously, displaying the same image, a human face. The being appeared unremarkable by their species standards, brown hair, dark eyes, pale skin bearing the marks of age and experience. But there was something in those eyes that made even the most hardened warriors of the Council feel a chill in their cores. "Greetings, Galactic Council," the human said, speaking perfect universal standard without any technological assistance. "My name is Admiral Sarah Chen, representing the United Human Territories. We've been aware of your surveillance for quite some time." Zixthera found her voice first. "How are you accessing our secured networks?" Admiral Chen smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both warm and terrifying. "High Chancellor, in the 2,000 years you kept us contained, did you really think we were idle? Your energy barriers didn't just keep us in, they kept you from seeing what we were becoming." The hologram zoomed in on Earth, revealing a planet transformed. Vast orbital rings surrounded it, connected to the surface by impossible elevator structures that stretched into space. The oceans themselves seemed to glow with controlled fusion reactions, while the continents were covered in cities that sprawled both underground and into the clouds. "We want to thank you," Chen continued, "for giving us the time we needed to evolve. Your barriers provided the perfect laboratory conditions. We've had 2 millennia to eliminate disease, aging, poverty, and war among our species. We've learned to manipulate matter at the quantum level, to harness the energy of stars, and to exist in harmony with our environment." Counselor Vexnari's psychic abilities, honed over thousands of years, could barely detect the edges of the human's mind. What she found there made her recoil in shock. The human wasn't just intelligent, she was connected to something vast, a collective consciousness that spanned billions of individuals while somehow maintaining perfect individual autonomy. "What do you want from us?" Zixthera asked, though she dreaded the answer. Admiral Chen's smile widened slightly. "Nothing at all, High Chancellor. We've moved beyond the need for conquest or expansion in the traditional sense. We've learned that the universe is far more interesting when it's diverse. We simply wanted to introduce ourselves to our neighbors and perhaps offer our assistance." "Assistance?" The word came out as a croak from Ambassador Kethvar. "Your records show 17 ongoing galactic conflicts, 12 species facing extinction from disease, and at least 40 worlds dying from resource depletion. We've solved these problems. We'd be happy to share our knowledge." The chamber fell silent again, but this time it was different. Instead of fear, there was something else. Hope, perhaps, mixed with the terrifying realization that humanity had become something beyond their comprehension. "There is one condition," Chen added, her tone remaining perfectly pleasant. "The age of quarantines and containment policies ends now. Every species has the right to grow, to explore, to become what they're meant to be. We'll be watching to ensure that happens." As the transmission ended, High Chancellor Zixthera looked around at her fellow council members. The species that had once considered themselves the guardians of galactic civilization now realized they had been children, playing with forces they didn't understand. The humans hadn't just emerged from their quarantine zone, they had transcended it entirely, and now, whether the galaxy was ready or not, a new age had begun.